All right, I think we're back. Sorry about that, everyone. Our laptop died, and which is odd because it was charging all day. So anyway, we'll give this another go, and we'll talk a little bit about the plastic bags piece that Allison had asked about. And then I'll happily take any additional questions as we get closer to 8 o'clock here. So I'll just quickly go back to where we were. So this Friday, Councillor Henderson is bringing forward a motion at our Utility Committee to ask, I believe, something along the lines of asking our administration to look into creating a single-use plastic ban. So that would include bags, straws, things like that. So what I was mentioning before the feed cutout is that, I don't think I know enough information yet to give a firm, I support it or I don't, but I'll share a couple of my thoughts. I think for a while, my first thought was that even though we've started to see other cities do it, I think Fort McMurray does it, I think there are a number, I think Vancouver has been doing that. I know there was just a story around the banning of plastic straws. There, we have such a high percentage of people that recycle in Edmonton. I was wondering, is it even necessary? And at the same point, as I think about that exact idea, that are so many people recycling already that we don't need it? That also makes me think about, well, if that many people are doing it, a ban might just help ensure we get that final, couple of percent of that aren't getting recycled, and how much of a difference could that make? If we're all already using reusable bags on a fairly regular basis, is it really that much of a stretch anymore to just say, we're not going to have plastic bags around? So I want to get more information on it. I think it's. I'm glad he's bringing forward the motion to look into that. I think. Again, I want to understand sort of the pros and cons of it, and also I just want to get people's feedback on it. Again, I know there are other cities that do it right now, so it exists in other areas. This is something that can be done, but getting your feedback as part of that would be valuable as well as we lead up to any report that would be discussed on this. So thanks for that question. I'm going to also see, I think those are all the questions we have so far. So what I'll do is jump back over to the list for just a little bit more. I think we're just wrapping up here. I'll do one last one here and then see if anything else has come up. The other one that had come up was around photo radar, and something I've talked about in the past as well. I don't believe I've ever written a specific blog post on it, but I've provided a lot of email responses on this topic, and my email response usually starts at the point in just to share sort of my thinking process around this topic. So from the beginning, I had a very simplistic point of view, which is that, if you don't want a ticket, don't speed. I've never received a photo radar ticket in my life. I don't think I ever will. I feel pretty confident in saying that because I always follow the speed limit. I pay very close attention to the signs, and so it's just not something that's ever occurred in my life. But I also think that answer is a little too simplistic just to say, well, if you don't want a ticket, don't speed. While there's still a part of me that feels that way to a degree, I don't think that's the rationale for talking about whether we should continue the program overall. And actually, on that note, in terms of getting all of the context, I want to give Troy Pavlik a shout out. He's every year over the last couple of years compiled all of the data. He's done FOIP requests, which hopefully he doesn't have to continue to do that. That information can simply be part of our open data catalog. But he compiles all of that data to keep track of the tickets that are being issued. Have we seen where's enforcement occurring? Has there been changes and impacts with the program? And it's really good information. So if you have an opportunity to read that, I would suggest that you do that. what we've seen is that I think one of the important things I want to mention at the beginning is that first, and this continues to be the case, there's never been a photo radar ticket issued in the city of Edmonton for going anywhere between 1 kilometer and 5 kilometers over the speed limit. You occasionally see online people say, "Oh, I got one for going 2 kilometers over." The data that has been pulled shows that's never been the case, and so I found that really fascinating information. But more importantly is the big question of, is this a tool we should be using when we're talking about traffic safety? What's the value of it? Is it having an impact? And I think we're starting to get better data every single year around this, but the very short answer is, generally speaking, yes. We are seeing an improvement where it's being used on a regular basis. With that said, I think there's still a need that just because we're seeing traffic safety improvements doesn't mean we shouldn't be providing the necessary oversight on this and really following it closely and keeping track of how it's being deployed, where it's being deployed, and what we saw, I think, in that same set of information that I was referring to earlier is that last year it was either 11 or 13%, and I just don't have the numbers right in front of me, but it was either 11 or 13% of the time our photo radars deployed on the Henday and on the freeways. If I think it was all of the freeway areas. So it's actually, when you think about just how large the city is and where we have the opportunity to use it, it's not a majority of the time on those locations. It's being used on those roads. It's also being used on other arterial roads within some communities now, and so more and more that data is available around how it's being used, where it's being used. And I think it's important that we don't rely on it. And in fact, what we saw in last year is that the overall revenue collected from photo radar went down year over year. And I think that's a good sign, actually. I think that's what you want to see. Ideally, you want to get to a place where photo radar revenue is zero. That's the dream, I think. And another important piece when I'm talking about photo radar is there's an assumption still among some people that photo radar goes exclusively into general revenue, that it can be used towards anything, and it's not true. 15% of it goes to Edmonton Police Service, which, to be fair, that 15% that goes to Edmonton Police Service can be used for any part of the Edmonton Police Service budget. But it goes to them, that allows them to do additional work. We do 15% to the victim services. We use the remainder is meant to go to traffic safety initiatives, with the opportunity that we can also use a small portion if there's excess in the reserve on community infrastructure projects. So, if a community is doing a major infrastructure project, Community League is doing a major infrastructure project, having that money available for a project like that. So if they want to do their own type of whatever type of improvements they want to do, there's certain restrictions, but that exists. But generally speaking, the money that we use, besides the money that goes to EPS and victim services, goes specifically to traffic safety. So it goes to new crosswalks. It goes to education, traffic safety education specifically. It goes to helping when you're rebuilding a road to do curb extensions by those crosswalk locations to help decrease the crosswalk distance. Goes to those digital feedback signs, which have been actually a big benefit within the city since they've been being installed. So for me, I don't view photo radar as something that needs to be stopped tomorrow. I think what we're seeing is, I think we'll continue to see a trend of that going down. We're going to continue to get good data around this, because there's a partnership now with the University of Alberta, and they have a traffic safety research person who will help provide more and more data that says, here's where we're using any type of traffic safety tool, and here's either the improvement or the, if it's not improving things at all. And we can use that information to continue to evolve our traffic safety program. We have a lot of work to do. We adopted Vision Zero back in 2015 without a goal date to say here's when we want to actually achieve it. It's only just as of a few months ago that now we have a firm target to achieve Vision Zero, which is 2032. And I'm glad we have a target now, but we've got a lot of work to do. And you know, I think there are some who will say, you know, Vision Zero is never achievable. It's foolish to try and go for 0 fatalities and 0 serious and injury collisions. My thought, and this is before my time on council, when I was in the working world, when I had the store in West Edmonton Mall, I always thought about, and this seems a little odd to put a comparison to running a business to Vision Zero, but bear with me for a moment. When we set goals in our business, we set fairly bold goals. And when you set a bold goal, I think the value in that is it really makes you think about everything you're currently doing and think about all the other alternatives that exist. If all you want to do is simply, so in the case of Vision Zero, reduce injuries by 1% every year, we could do that by tweaking each and every year. If you want to get to 0, is tweaking going to accomplish that? Are we thinking about things the way we need to if this is our end goal, if we want to hit 0? And it makes us think, I think, more creatively and look for other solutions that maybe hadn't been considered before. And so I think there's a lot of value in Vision Zero. And yeah, is it going to be tough to hit 0 in 2032? Sure. But I actually think it is possible. I think when you look at what happens in the city, you know, our traffic fatality numbers are not great, because I think last year it was 27, if I recall. That's I mean, again, 1 is too many. But I realistically think when I look at what we're trying to do and what we need to do to achieve that, it is possible. Infrastructure upgrades, as we build new roadways or as we upgrade existing roadways, we design them in a way that encourages that safety. That we make sure we get through that crosswalk list that was talked about a few months ago, and how we've got about 659 locations across the city that need some type of crosswalk infrastructure or enhanced crosswalk infrastructure. If we can get out in front of these in a fairly quick way, I think you can start to see a fairly significant change in those numbers. And that comes back to photo radar being, that will be one tool. But you can't, if you rely on that, then you're sure not going to hit your goal, and you're not really going to have the overall impact. But you need the enforcement along with roadway design changes, along with safe crosswalk infrastructure, along with those other pieces, along with the education. So I think there's a role for that to play, and I think the numbers are showing that it's being used quite well now, and I think, yeah, I know some people can get frustrated when they get that ticket on the Henday, and but actually, as we started to see, I remember what started me down the path of being more supportive of photo radar beyond the if you don't want a ticket, then don't speed. I remember in that meeting in November 2014. And at the time, we had someone from the U of A who'd been researching our numbers, and they had shown that one of the segments on the Henday where we were using it, it was in the southwest, where it had been used on a regular basis, serious and injury collisions went down by 1/3. That was fascinating, because I think a lot of us, and even myself, particularly on a spot like the Henday, had just simply assumed, is it really having a safety impact? Or is it just there to help, bolster the revenue, which goes to traffic safety, which in itself is valuable, but if all it's being used for is for revenue, is that really the right place? And to hear that those numbers and to have that research that showed it, I thought was, for me, sort of that starting point of saying, I think it's more than simply a revenue generation tool for traffic safety. There's actually a role at this place, but don't rely on it. And that's really where I would sit on this. And I would hope that as we continue the discussion on it, but I hope a conversation continues on it. We continue to watch what happens each and every year when we do that analysis, and we see the impact, and we have even more research that suggests what I would love to see is that type of data for each and every location where we use it. What type of impact was happening prior to using it? What type of impact is happening after the fact? And really being able to measure that. Because if you're not seeing an improvement in a certain area, then I think you do need to look at other ways to address safety concerns. So it's nearing the end. It's 7:54. And I think I've talked a lot. I do want to thank those who sent in questions and who have been watching. I hope this has been valuable for you, and always interested in your additional feedback. So if you have questions that maybe you're watching this later on and you want to ask me, feel free to send me them. You can put them in the comments section of the YouTube video. You can put them on Facebook, Twitter, send them by email. I'll be sure to get to them and provide a response. As well, just to note again, you can, I'd encourage you to continue visiting the website. I do try to post updates fairly regularly on what's going on major decisions that have been made. I try to post blog posts around why I might have voted the way I did, and we also try and keep people informed of what's coming up, some of those bigger issues. Please visit the website. You can actually subscribe on email updates. So if you put in your email address on the homepage, you can get email updates as to when we put new information out. Love for you to do that. If you subscribe to the YouTube channel, when new videos go up, you can also be notified for that if you click on that notification button. But just want you to know that, again, the whole point of me doing this is I want to make sure you have the opportunity to share your feedback, your comments, because that's sort of the whole point of this here. This is a little different than our standard community conversations where it's more of a dialogue back and forth, but those are also in person in a room full of lots of people. So I'm glad that you've taken the time to watch. I hear that Bodhi is saying hi, and I do want to say hi to Bodhi as well. Thank you for watching. I appreciate it. I enjoy this YouTube live streaming thing here. It's a little different than Facebook Live too, but it's fun. So this is my backup plan, so that whenever I don't have this job, I can have like a YouTube channel. And I hope that I can make a living off YouTube like everyone else seems to do right now. So that's it for me. If you want to stay in touch, again, just follow, go to the website, sign up for updates. Just stay up to date on pretty much any form of social media. I'm there. And thanks for watching, everyone. It's been good chatting, and we'll talk to you again soon. And I should note, actually, my last thought would be the next community conversation, the in-person one, we are doing on, I believe it is Monday, June the 18th at the West End Senior Center, and that's running from 6:30 till 9 o'clock. So if you liked sort of this format, but you want to come out and be able to chat about issues and sort of have more of a dialogue about that, 6:30, 9 o'clock, Monday, June 18th, West End Senior Center. Please join us, and if I don't see you there, I'll hopefully either see you at the doors or out at events. And thanks everyone for watching. Have a great night. We're good?